can I tell you that the stress level it didn't go away. It just continued to build because we're getting closer and closer to the time that all of the things are needing to be done and nothing is happening. And, as we met this man, this scripture, again, maybe most likely very familiar to us, began to go through my mind. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways and higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You see, when we stepped foot into Moldova, we had gone in with an expectation, with an understanding in our minds of how we thought things were going to go. We had our little plan, we had our little checklist, we had all of the things that were going to happen in order. We're going to do A, B, and C, and then the rest of the things will take place, and it's going to be a great success, and we're going to get pats on the back, or even just the fact that we survived it. All of these things, we had an idea in our mind. And I just can't help but realize that that's how it is many times for us in our walk with the Lord. We come to church on a Sunday or Wednesday or whatever day, or we meet someone in a coffee shop and we have an experience, and we give ourselves to the Lord, and we just have this expectation that things are just going to work out a certain way. The red carpet is going to be rolled out, and it's all going to be easy. It's going to be, roses and daisies and peaches and cream and whatever other goodness you want to say. And I just want to throw this in here too. I've grown up in church my entire life. I was born, and the next week I was in church. I was almost born in church, literally. And I've seen missionary after missionary come through, and they tell stories like Emma. They tell experiences where God has just worked things out. And it's easy, and it's tempting for us even to look at the missionary and say, well, that's an easy life. And it's easy to look at just being a Christian and say, well, if I just give myself to the Lord, it's all going to work out. It's going to be great. And I do believe that there are seasons, there are times where as we walk with the Lord, it's going to be easy. His burden is light. His yoke is easy, right? There are times when we walk with the Lord that's going to happen, but there are also times when we walk with the Lord that we're going to experience challenge. There are times when we walk with the Lord that we're going to seemingly walk into a wall on it, and it doesn't make sense why that wall is in front of us, because, God, you never told me about that one. You never told me about that challenge that was going to be before me. You didn't tell me about the struggle that I was going to have to go through in that season. And again, can I be honest this morning? Before I do this, I'll finish that story. So this man, he drives us around. And in 1 hour, he began to check off everything that was on our list. In 1 hour, he began to answer all of our questions, not the ones that, the luggage and getting home. He was just helping us to do what God had called us to do there in Moldova. And then one of the evangelists we found out was coming to Moldova by way of Latvia, so he was able to stop and get all of our belongings and bring them to us. And then we got on the phone and we talked to the airline office, and in a short period of time, everything was worked out. And God just knew. He had already set forth a plan, but to us, it looked like wall. It looked like challenge. To us, it looked like maybe even the question of, God, have I missed it? God, is this really what you're wanting from me and from my family? Because it doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look like. But at the end of it all, really, God isn't necessarily wanting us to walk with him because it's easy. He just wants us to trust him and walk with him no matter what may come. And so we had gone to Ukraine in 2020, and things weren't working out, and it had already been challenge after challenge getting there. And again, it's like, God, why? Why so many challenges? Why is it not easy? And all the while, he's just saying, I want you to trust me. And I remember I went before the Lord in prayer while we're there in Ukraine, and it's maybe a month into it, and I just was coming back to the Lord and saying, God, I look around at all of the things that are happening in my life and around the world even. You know, at the time there was many earthquakes happening around the world, different things happening, obviously COVID happening, people passing from COVID, and now we have border restrictions, and we have all of these different challenges, and I began to look at the Lord, or speak to the Lord and say, God, I just look at all of these things, and it looks to me as if everything is just falling apart. Like, God, are you even in this? If I can be honest, I mean, just going before the Lord and saying, do you even know what's happening in my life? Do you even understand the challenges that I'm facing or dealing with right now? Do you know? Do you see the chaos that's happening in the world? And the Lord spoke to me in that moment, and he said, you look at the chaos, or what you call chaos, around the world. You look at the challenges of your life, and you begin to say that everything is falling apart, but I just want you to hear it or see it from my perspective. When I look at these things happening around the world and in your life, I don't see it falling apart. I see everything falling into place. Because there's a purpose and a plan that I have set forth that you know not of. He knows the end from the beginning, and we don't. And it's okay, because our responsibility isn't to know the end from the beginning. It's just to hold his hand and to walk with him and to trust him through it all. In those moments where the questions come, in those moments where the challenges begin to be set before us, and that wall is before us, and those questions and the redirections and all of the things that just do not make sense to our natural mind. He just says, trust me. Trust that I know where you are. Trust that I have a purpose and a plan. And you know, we can be giving ourselves to the Lord, being daily in prayer and reading and fasting and being a good Christian. And at times we can find ourselves like Job, going through a season in the middle of chaos and great loss, and wealth is gone, children are gone. And beyond that, our friends are judging us. All of the things are happening. And we can get to a place where we're seeking an audience with the Lord. Get to a place where we're saying, God, I just don't have any answers anymore. I'm at the end of my understanding of what to do. I don't even understand why this is happening. And we can get to a place where we're seeking after the Lord, and it can feel as if, like Job says in chapter 23, verses 8 and 9, behold, I go forward, but he is not there. And backward, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand where he doth work, but I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him. We're seeking an audience from the Lord, and it's as if he's just completely abandoned us. He's allowed death and destruction and chaos and confusion to come into our lives, and he's nowhere to be found. If I might share with you this morning, I love my son. And there are many great things that I've noticed. He's a year old, and there are many great things that I've noticed in his development as he's getting older. Some things I know, some things are new to me. Some things I recognize, I just don't know how to quantify them or explain them. And one of those concepts that he has been working through and developing in and growing in, I'd like to demonstrate for you this morning. Because it's a concept we all have, just we don't always recognize that we have it. And here's how I'm going to explain it this morning. Is through a little game. It's a game that we're probably all familiar with. I actually even saw Sister Nancy playing this game a little bit this morning with one of the children. And it's going to be a little bit difficult. This pulpit is clear, so just kind of use your imagination with me. But here's how the game goes. Peekaboo. Peekaboo. And my son, when we play this game, most of the time, he has a similar reaction. He begins to laugh. He has enjoyment from this game. Why? It's because he's developing this concept or this understanding of something called object permanence. It's the understanding that objects continue to exist even when they cannot be sensed. You see, we go through times in our life, in our walk with the Lord, as Job, where chaos is happening, confusion all around, questions overwhelm, and we're seeking and searching for the Lord, but it seems as if He's not there. But we must understand this concept about the Lord, is that He is faithful and He is just. He's never going to leave us. He's never going to forsake us. Even in the middle of our deepest, darkest trial, He's going to be walking with us. Even in the middle of our deepest, darkest misunderstanding or confusion, whatever we may find ourselves in, He's not left us. Even when I'm searching around and I'm seeking and I can't see Him, He's still there. Even when I'm searching around and I'm seeking after Him and I can't feel Him, He's still there. Even when I think He's gone, He's left me, He's abandoned me in the middle of my confusion, in the middle of my challenge, He's still there. And as Job says in verse 10, but He knoweth the way that I take, and when He hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. You see, there are times that God allows seasons in our lives of challenge where we don't understand or we think He doesn't know what's going on in our lives. But He does. He knows exactly where we are. We may feel abandoned in the desert of or that our tears are falling upon the dry desert of the challenge or the confusion. But on the other side of the struggle, I'm going to be new in Him. On the other side of my trial, I'm going to find the peace that I've been longing for so long. On the other side of my pain, I'm going to be restored and I'm going to be made new and complete and whole in Him. And because I know this, when I'm in the middle of a challenge, I can have this perception or this understanding, this idea that in the middle of my challenge, I'm not going to allow myself to be consumed with it. I'm not going to allow myself to be pushed down by it, but I'm just going to begin to lift my hand. I'm going to continue to lift my voice and rejoice in the Lord because I know that He is the way, the truth, and the life, and that it's only through Him that the life or the work that needs to be done can be accomplished in the first place. And during my testing, I'll praise Him. During my trying, I will just continue to lift up His name. During my confusion, during my uncertainty, I will make Him known. I will continue to point people in His direction even when I can't seem to find Him myself. Why? Because He is a faithful God. He is a just God. He knows where we are. He knows the questions we ask. He knows the things that we go through, the uncertainty that we feel, the face every day. He loves us. He knows where we are and what we're facing. I'm going to share one last story as I come to a close this morning. We had finally gotten into Moldova. We had been there for a month at this time when the other young people had come to work with us. And we were doing some teaching and some training with them, teaching and training we ourselves had received. And we were doing some prayer walks in Moldova, in the capital city, in an area right in the center of the city, in the center of the nation. It was an hour-long prayer walk that we did every day for 7 days, prayer and fasting. And on the seventh day, like the children of Israel, we had just decided. They had set the pattern. Obviously, God had instructed them, but they had set the pattern, and we said on the seventh day, we're going to begin to lift our voices. And we're just going to call upon the name of the Lord and believe that the seeds of prayer that have been planted throughout this week, God is going to begin to work in those. And that fallow ground has begun to be broken up. And that those walls of challenge are going to begin to come down, and God is going to begin to unlock some things. And as we were standing there praying, many people walking by, looking at us, probably thinking that we're fulfilling all the American stereotypes of being loud and boisterous and thinking it's all about us. We were there lifting our hands and lifting our voices to the Lord in the middle of this nation, in between a large Orthodox church and the government building of the nation, two of the really strongholds upon the minds of the people. And many people walking by, wondering what in the world is happening. But one elderly man in particular, I noticed as we were praying, he was getting closer and closer to us as we continued in prayer. And by the time we had finished our time of prayer, he was standing there in the middle of our group. He began to speak with us. And he was speaking to us in Russian, so we had to use Google Translate, because at this point we only speak Russian to the level of a toddler, so you can imagine that conversation doesn't go very far. But he was speaking to us through translation, standing there in the middle of the nation, with big tears streaming down his face. He began to tell us, I've been coming to this park every day for the past 10 years. And I've been asking the Lord to send someone to my nation to bring revelation and understanding of who He is. I've been praying every day for the past 26 years that God would send someone to my nation to begin to preach truth and break the chains of tradition off the minds of my people, so that they would understand how to really have a relationship with Him. And as we stand this morning, I'm coming to a close, and maybe the musicians can come. But he began to share this with us. A prayer that he had been praying for so long. Something he had been seeking for so long. I don't know about you, but I can get a little frustrated with the Lord at times when I bring something before Him over and over again, and I wonder, do you even know what I'm dealing with? Do you even see the pain that I'm wrestling with day after day? Do you even hear the questions that I'm asking night after night? Do you even see the tears that are falling as I lock myself in that room where no one else knows? As I go to that place in prayer where no one else hears? Do you know what I'm asking? Do you hear me? Do you see that I'm seeking after you? And for and to us, what looked like confusion. To us, what looked like uncertainty. To us, what looked like maybe a misstep or a redirect. We found ourselves in the nation of Ukraine for 8 months. If we had gone, I firmly believe this, if we had gone into Moldova in our own timing, if we had gone into Moldova in our own way, if we had forced that door open, I firmly believe that this connection would not have happened. But there was a path that the Lord needed to take us on, to remind us, I know where you are. I know what you're going through. And I know it doesn't make sense, but there's a man in Moldova who's been seeking. He's not given up. He's been persistent. He's been holding on. He's been just giving himself to it. And so not only for you, but for him, but for everyone, I'm working in a way that you don't understand, because I'm doing things that you don't know about. And as you walk with me, as you are trusting in me, all I'm asking is that you trust me. All the Lord is asking you this morning is, will you trust me with your life? Will you allow me to direct your steps even when it doesn't make sense? Will you allow me to take you on a journey that in your natural mind doesn't make sense? Will you trust me? So this morning as I close, I just ask, is there a situation in your life where can't seem to find the answer. And you're really unsure if you're even going to continue to hold on. Is there something in your life that God is just asking you to trust Him with? If that's the case in your life, I open this altar before you today and just come before the Lord and surrender to Him. God, I give you my heart. God, I give you my questions. God, I give you my uncertainties. I don't know the end from the beginning, God, but I just have to reason within myself that you know where I am. I have to be reminded and come to the conclusion this morning, God, that you are working all things for my good. I just have to trust you in it when I can't see